Hi, my name's Rob Scott from UC Today, and welcome to another monthly edition of our Microsoft Teams news update. I'm joined by Tom Arbuthnot, UC Solutions Architect, Microsoft Certified Master and MVP. Welcome, Tom. How are you today?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, dealing with lockdown and kids running around okay. I managed to shut myself away for half an hour to record the pod.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, we are in the middle of lockdown still, so it's a very funny time for us, isn't it? I don't know whether funny is a word actually, but with these backgrounds we've got on today, I think it's going to be a fun session. So
yeah, bring a bit of colour to the situation.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a whopper of an update this month. Lots happened in the past few weeks. It just amazes me how many things Microsoft managed to do in a month. But how about we get started with the headlines, Tom? What's top of the list for you this month?
Yeah, so as you say, there's been a lot going on this month. I mean, Microsoft have been reacting to the crazy load on Teams as everybody's working from home, but they've also been pushing out a ton of updates, both kind of features and functionality, and also for extra kind of security and control over meetings, as meetings have been used in more situations, like particularly in education. A number of features are coming to help teachers using Teams to remotely teach. But right top of the list for me in terms of potential kind of industry impact is Microsoft 365 Business Voice. And that is a new SKU, a new license that SMBs can buy. So that's sub 300 seats in Microsoft language that partners can sell, which bundles Teams as a telephony platform, Teams for PSD and conferencing from Microsoft, and either a calling plan, which is a user phone number and minutes from Microsoft, or a partner can bundle their own calling plan service, so their direct routing service. And this provides one simple way for an SMB to buy phone system, calling plans, and conferencing all in one hit, and allows partners to resell that as a single license as well.
So, Tom, to the layman, that is a full Microsoft Teams phone system and collaboration platform ready to go for a small business up to 300 users, correct?
Yes, so by default you get a license for Teams for VoIP meetings and VoIP calling and chat and everything else. This license adds on the phone system, the phone number, the PSTN conferencing. Previously, you would have to buy those as separate licenses or jump right up to Microsoft's high-level licensing E5. But this just makes a really nice, easy way for SMBs to purchase it, but more importantly, for partners that service SMBs to sell it in a kind of single SKU model.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And where is it available, Tom?
So it's worldwide. So previously it was limited to UK, Canada, and US, but now it's worldwide. The only interesting exception is Australia. So Microsoft have a deal with Tata in Australia, and it seems like that means that they're not selling this in Australia, but everywhere else it is available.
Great stuff. Well, I'm sure we're going to see more on that.
It's Telstra in Australia. Sorry, not Tata. Got the wrong T.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Telstra are the major network out there, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, wow. So lots for the small business there, and up to 300 users. So yeah, that's a great fit for a lot of businesses here in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think if you look at hosted VoIP and hosted telephony and hosted conferencing, actually lots of the big enterprises are moving away from on-prem to cloud right now for sure. But the bulk of the market, I would bet, is in that 300 seat and below area. So this provides a really compelling reason for partners to push that as an offer to those type of customers. And from my experience, that type of customer are more likely to be kind of sold to and serviced as opposed to go out and choose their solution. So for the other vendors in that space, it'll be interesting to see if this adds a bit of competitive pressure where Teams as a phone system becomes more of a default.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so moving on, what's next on the list? What's Microsoft been doing to kind of make the experience a little bit more fun?
Yeah, so I guess top of the list by demand is background images. So clearly part of this working from home thing is Zoom usage has blown up, and one of the features people love from Zoom is changing their image on the background. So now Microsoft have that feature rolling out. We're both running it now. It's a nice one in that it's really fun, but it also encourages people to use video because they're often nervous about showing their room or their background. So now they can replace it with a nice image.
Yeah. That's a really good point as well, isn't it? Because we are letting people into our homes, aren't we, as remote workers, and that not everyone's going to be comfortable with that. So yeah, that is a really good point. And there are some things that you can do with custom backgrounds coming through as well, where you can upload your own and potentially even augment things on the experience as well going forward.
Yeah, interestingly, right now there's a preset set of images that Microsoft have kind of vetted and approved, but you can go and find where they're stored in Teams and change them out for your own. At some point, there will be an ability to upload your own. Typical Microsoft, it's kind of security and control first, so they're not going to add that upload feature until admins can control it. So right now, you can do it on the back end if you want to know how and dig through, but there will be some ability to upload custom images, or maybe you'll have corporately approved images like just the company background, for example.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, certainly important to keep up with Zoom, because Zoom are flying at the moment, and it's a pretty standard feature they've had for quite a while now. So yeah, great that Microsoft's got that too. What's the next on the list?
Yeah, and another meeting feature that's come up that again has been a big ask is hands up. So really simple feature when you're an attendee in a meeting. Often it can be hard to jump in. As you use video conferencing more and more, you kind of get used to actually just being okay with jumping into the conversation. But particularly when you're new to it, you feel like you can't jump in. So you can now press a button that puts a virtual hands up, and on the presenter's view, they can see someone raise their hand and who's waiting to talk. So that feature's rolling out now, and yeah, it's been a big ask again from users.
Yeah, and it is annoying when people talk over each other, but it is kind of, it's normal, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people don't wait to be spoken to. They talk over each other, and there's always someone in the room that's trying to kind of take control.
Yeah, so, with video, you have the visual cues, so obviously that's a big deal. And as you get more and more people in the meeting, you have less of those visual cues. When you use this stuff a lot, you get used to leaving pauses when you present. So you're like, I'll pause for breath. I've said a lot. Anybody jump in? But for people, particularly larger meetings, this is a good way to see, oh, look, there's 5 different people waiting now. Bob, what do you want to say? Sarah, what did you want to say? Jack, what did you want to say? It's quite handy.
Yeah, absolutely. And etiquette is important, no matter whether you're in a live meeting or a remote meeting. But
we've been talking about this a lot on Modality, because we've got customers who are suddenly onboarding 100% and just not being used to using video first by default, or screen sharing, like real things that we consider absolutely basic, like training users on you can share your screen and show a document. Like there's a wide range of use of this technology, from people who really use it every day to just using it for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been a lot of hoo-ha around Microsoft's relatively restrictive kind of window or screen, or because we can only have 4 at the moment, right?
Yeah, video layouts. Yeah, that's been a really big one. Again, that's something that Zoom does well, is they can put lots and lots of people on the screen concurrently. Microsoft are now rolling out 3x3. That tends to hit the majority of meetings, particularly enterprise meetings. You rarely have that many people unless you're in a broadcast scenario. So that's a big step forward. But one of the product managers at Microsoft has said there's more coming as well. So something we hear in Edu is, I want to see my entire class, which might be 20 people, for example, or sometimes execs like to see how all the people they're presenting to are reacting. So they like to see more people on screen. So 3x3 rolling out now. Expect later in the year, I expect that it to increase in line with what some of the competitors can do.
Great stuff. Well, I look forward to that too, because we're a small business, but there's more than 4 people in the business, so it's quite annoying not being able to just see everyone when we have an all hands session. Yep. Well, looking forward to that one. What's next?
What have you got on the list? You got the list in front of you there.
I've got improved meeting join web page.
Oh yeah, this is a little one, but again, another nice one. So Microsoft have cleaned up the meeting join page. So when you click a link to join a Teams meeting, at the moment you get a nice big Teams logo and a join web app or join with the browser. They've cleaned it up to 3 options, so it's very clear you can join in a browser without any plugins. You can launch the actual full Teams client, and when you launch the Teams client, it downloads and pushes you into the meeting. So again, just user feedback, like this page needs to be cleaner, simpler, easier. Nice addition there.
Yeah, and just on the kind of web experience, is it are most people using Microsoft Teams as a kind of downloadable edition, or or are they using it through the web? Is it feasible that you can actually access all the features through the web now?
Yeah, so if you're running Chrome or Chromium Edge, it's a fully fledged experience, audio, video, desktop sharing. If you're using Teams all day, every day, it's probably better to have the full fat client. There are some minor abilities in the client that are there that aren't there in the web experience. But for a meeting join, somebody who doesn't have a Teams account, it's perfectly valid to use the web. And quite often when people are joining our meetings who aren't Teams users, I'll direct them to use the web join, just they don't have to faff around with installing a client.
That is good to know. Okay, great stuff. New IP phone firmware.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So last firmware we had was in February. One of the main things there is we're getting speed dials or favorites on the screen, which is something that users really request, custom ringtones, another big user request, and also managing delegates straight from the phone. So these are all things you could do in the Teams client, but you couldn't do on the IP phone. They're now going to be directly in the phone. The other one that's interesting is dialing speed dials. It seems like a really basic feature, but Microsoft added, not speed dials, short codes like extension dialing. So Microsoft added this ability in Teams. You can dial 4 digits. Lots of users still want to do that on IP phones. So now when you dial the 4 digits, it will auto dial rather than you having to press the dial button after dialing your 4 digits or your 5-digit extension.
Oh, that's cool. Very useful. And another, user experience improvement. So fantastic. Well, related to that, we've got direct media optimization. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's a mouthful, isn't it? This is so Microsoft have a model called direct routing where you can bring your own carrier and bring your own session border controller, and that's been around for quite a long time, and it's very, very popular. It unblocks Teams phone system to be used any carrier anywhere in the world, interop with existing PBXs. Two things that customers wanted to do: they wanted to be able to have an SBC on a branch site that didn't have any local breakout for internet, so it just had maybe an ISDN and an old school phone system, but they wanted to put a gateway in to run on that ISDN so users could make phone calls from that side, but not put a firewall in an internet connectivity to get back to Microsoft. So previous to this release, your SBC had to be able to talk directly to Microsoft. There had to be an IP route from that SBC to the Microsoft cloud. Now you can put that SBC in and pair it with another SBC that can talk to Microsoft, so it doesn't have to have a direct route. So this unblocks lots of branch sites where they've got ISDN, they've got an old school phone system, they want to swap in Teams, but they don't want to have a direct route through firewalls and proxy to that SBC on that customer site.
Great. So just ultimately making that hybrid world a little bit easier going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Just allowing the really, it's large enterprise like that have those sites that don't have easily routable internet for that site, like not that they can get directly to Microsoft, but do want to be able to have a SBC on that site because they want to keep ISDN connectivity.
Great stuff. And all this that we've mentioned so far is available within that new Business Voice SKU on Microsoft, within the Microsoft catalog now.
Yeah, there's no feature difference between the business and the enterprise editions in terms of this stuff. So even if you're at the SMB SKU, you can still have all these direct routing features, all the meetings features.
Great stuff. Okay, so I read this next one and I was very, very surprised at this. So I'm keen to understand why Microsoft have done this, but there is a new consumer version of Microsoft Teams coming out. Is that true?
Yeah, this is really interesting. So obviously Microsoft owns Skype Consumer, and actually they released some figures that Skype Consumer is still super active. I don't see it anymore in any of my circles, but globally Skype Consumer is still used. But they're now releasing an option for in the Office 365 Home editions, which are like the personal versions, to have Teams, and they're kind of aiming at a kind of a prosumer crowd. Like I can organize my family holiday on Teams or keep up with my personal home schedule with all the kids' sports activities. I think it's a bit of an extreme user case. I don't know that I can see many people using it for that scenario, but it's part of Microsoft's Office 365 offer. It doesn't really cost them anything to bundle it in as a consumer option. So I think they're putting it on the table to see if consumer uptake is strong for it.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, just that, bring in the community. We've seen it with Zoom recently, with the consumers using these business platforms for virtual hangouts and parties and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think meetings is definitely a really strong use case, and that's where maybe it comes in. Is like people do like simple, secure virtual meetings, and Teams has no time limits on sessions, no attendee limits. So stuff like that might tip people in the consumer world to use that for their family get together rather than Zoom or something else that might have, like Zoom Free has an attendee limit and a session time limit. If you've got Teams, you haven't got those limits potentially.
Interesting time to release that as well, during lockdown when we are all working remotely and socializing remotely as well. So great stuff. Next up, we've got live events. Some improvement there.
Yeah, a couple of things that are coming in live events. So live events are Microsoft's broadcast scenario where they set up a meeting and you can have thousands of people. What's new there is they're now in preview supporting up to 100,000 people in a meeting. That's designed for an organizational meeting as opposed to a public meeting. So I would presume Microsoft have been asked by some of these big corps that they need to do broadcast scenarios for more than 10,000 people now, because again, global issues happening, we want to broadcast to everybody at the same time and tell them what's going on. So that's a really big jump from 10,000 to up to 100,000 users. Also, they've added the ability, or they're adding, I should say, it's rolling out at the moment, the ability to stream in system audio. So you can play a video on your PC while you're in a meeting, and it will stream the audio of that video through to the meeting. So another feature that people have been asking for when they're in big events, they want to show a clip with sound into the meeting.
Wow. That 10 times the capacity. Imagine the traffic that causes on the internet.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It uses the Azure's content delivery network. So it's the same network that they stream the Olympics and stuff through. So the Azure capacity is there anyway, sort of thing. If you're an enterprise, you're usually worried about your local site getting flattened. So if you've got 3,000 people and they all join a stream, it's not broadcast, it streams each stream one-to-one, but you can overlay a few different technologies, Hive, Collective, Ramp, that add boxes on the site that rebroadcast so you don't swamp your internet connection. So there are ways to deal with that to kind of maximize your site with thousands of users, not each pulling a single stream for that video.
Got it. Well, I'm glad those tools exist. Wow. Okay, so next up, Yammer communities. What's happened there on the Yammer app?
Yeah, this was launched or shown a while ago. I think we talked about it in the pod a while ago, but now it's generally available. And it's the ability to have an app for Yammer in Teams. So Yammer is enterprise social, work out loud, virtual water cooler, kind of async chat across the whole org, like Facebook for work kind of thing, but Microsoft's version. And Teams is really focused more on getting your job done, project focused. The idea is that some users want to have the Yammer experience, but have it in a single pane of glass, so they can bring that Yammer app into Teams, stay living in Teams, but flip to Yammer within Teams.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you can now essentially just have Yammer within that pane of Microsoft Teams pane of glass.
Yeah, so Modality use Yammer and we use Teams. Like everything customer-wise, project-wise is in Teams. Everything that's sort of office gossip and what's going on in the industry and what have you heard is Yammer, because it's out loud. The whole 150 people around the world can get access to it, and I don't need to lock it down in any way. But you do find there's a bunch of people that do actively like enterprise social and use Yammer, and there's a bunch of people that it doesn't come to mind. So having it in Teams as a tab, as an app, might just be like, oh, I'll spend 5 minutes checking out what's going on in Yammer. They're not having to app switch. It's a bit of a religious debate internally about, I like having multiple screens and multiple apps, and I can have all things going on at once, versus I'm focused on a single thing at once, and I'd like to stay in Teams, and I do my OneNote editing Teams, my Word editing Teams, and my Yammer in Teams. So you've got both options on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. Let's move on to the next one then. Security and control improvements. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, there's been a whole load of little kind of feature changes and feature additions to Teams. And a lot of this is obviously a lot of the Zoom stuff that's kicked off in the industry about random joiners and stuff. Microsoft are just tightening up some of their best practices, the defaults on Teams, but also Teams have been rolling out really aggressively into education. And so teacher and student scenarios, where students might be inclined to see what they can do, like, oh, I'm a presenter, I can mute my fellow students, or I can kick people out of meetings, that kind of thing. So these were things that were already in Teams, that Microsoft are changing some of the defaults. So the first one is they're hiding PSTN phone numbers of joiners from other external joiners. So previously, everybody could see the remote party's phone number when they joined a meeting, but now only presenters or organisers can see that. So just a little bit of tidy up for hiding data. Microsoft are defaulting to having the lobby on, so users can still choose to turn it off for their meeting, but they're moving to a model where anybody external or anybody on PSTN will hit a lobby, and then the organizer or the presenter has to admit them. So previously that would be off by default and they would just bypass, but now it's turning to on by default. Microsoft have given a new option to set default presenters. So again, this is really an education thing. They'll set the teachers as default presenters and the students as default attendees, so that they don't have to, on a per meeting basis, think about that so much. They'll just be like, teachers present and students join. They are restricting who can start a meeting in some scenarios. So again, they can restrict it to teachers can kick the meeting off. And also there's an end meeting button, so teachers can enforceably end the meeting and it kicks everybody out. And these are all features that Teams has been built as a collaboration platform primarily. So the first mode was everybody gets together and it doesn't really matter who starts the meeting. It doesn't really matter where it finishes because we're all collaborating. But in these teaching scenarios or external event scenarios, it's a bit more important to have just the presenters have control of who can mute, who can present. The presenters can start the meeting, the presenters can end the meeting. So tidying up some of that control around a meeting experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just going to show how versatile the Microsoft Teams is, isn't it? You know, being used for classroom environments, etc. And it's great to see them come through with these features. So
it's amazing to see the pace they've come with them as well. They've clearly been reacting to the feedback, and we know, I mean, they've done some public blogs about it. They are very focused on supporting all the different organizations through this massive change in how we work. I've been super impressed to see from feedback to feature rolling out has been as fast as I've ever seen it, with things like the Handsup and the end meeting. Those came out very, very fast.
Yeah, absolutely great to see. Microsoft Teams rooms now support modern authentication.
Yeah, this is a bit techie, but worth knowing. So Microsoft Room systems are Windows-based systems for joining meetings. They used to support a kind of standard authentication, but now they support a higher level of authentication and authorization. So there's a blog with all the techie details in, but lots of orgs have a really high standard of how they do authentication and encryption and sign-in and all those kind of things. This unblocks some of those modern abilities on the MTRs, which previously couldn't do it.
Fantastic. And last but not least, breakout rooms coming soon, I believe.
Yeah, this just dropped as news. So again, another one. Other platforms have this feature. So it's the ability to say someone's in a teaching scenario, a particular student has a question. You can click and break into a separate side meeting to have a 1-to-1 or 1-to-3 or whatever with those people, and jump back into the main meeting. So Microsoft have officially said that's in the works as well.
Great stuff. Well, it's certainly leveling the playing field in terms of features with other platforms that do offer that breakout feature as well. And I mean, this has been such a fantastic update. I mean, it's just epic, isn't it? I mean, there's so much happening in the world of Microsoft Teams right now. So
yeah, it's crazy. Before, when we were prepping before we hit record, like it's a ridiculous amount of features in a month, and month to month we just have more and more to talk about. So yeah, it's nice to see the pace it's going at, and I'm sure come around next month we'll have even more to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Tom, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks once again for joining me and sharing another, massive Teams update with our audience.
Yeah, no, thanks, Rob. Yeah, looking forward to next month, and yeah, we'll talk soon. If anybody's got any feedback on the show or what we've covered, we'd love to hear that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you've enjoyed today's session, don't forget to give us a quick like or a share. And if you would like more information on Microsoft Teams, do visit Tom's blog at tomstalks.blog. And we'll be back again next month with more Microsoft Teams news. Thanks for watching.